Well, good or bad, the teacher strike is over here in Denver. I remember it was 25 years ago that they struck before. One guy was brave enough to cross that line, talk show legend Mike Rosen. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, John. Always good to be with you.
I remembered it like it was yesterday, the strike, and I remember your radio show saying we shouldn't deny them an education, and you actually walked over the picket line and you taught a class or two.
Exactly right, at South High, as a matter of fact. I like the symbolism of my crossing the picket line. And actually, I had a lot of fun with the students. We talked about civics and the role of government in society. And while private sector unions are one thing, public sector unions are quite another.
All right, so big question everyone's asked. So are you now getting retirement benefits from PARA for your tenure?
No, that's only for government employees.
Okay.
I've got a 401k plan to which I contribute quite a bit more than PARA people have been contributing to theirs, although the latest deal with the state legislature has them anting up a couple of percent more, which is long overdue. PARA, you know, is insolvent. They claim it's only a $32 billion unfunded liability, but that's based on an assumption of a return on investment that's unrealistic, so it's much worse than that. But it is a wonderful retirement plan, and that's been ignored.
Yeah, let me ask you about this.
Yeah.
And you were the first one that really educated me way back when on trying to get a comparison as to what teachers really get paid.
Yeah.
So it is the sun rises in the east, teachers are underpaid. It is just a given. Teachers are underpaid. Correct?
No, it's not correct. And I'll give you the numbers in your audience and you can decide for yourself. First of all, what I said was being ignored, and the Denver Post, and I read it every day, to my knowledge, hasn't touched on this as part of their news coverage. It's not just what their paycheck is, it's what their total compensation plan is worth. And a huge part of that is this fabulous defined benefit contribution plan known as PARA, for Public Employees Retirement Association. I'll give you an example. Take a young woman who gets an education degree from the University of Colorado and she wants to go into teaching. And let's say after 4 years in school, at the age of 22, she signs up with Denver Public Schools or Cherry Creek Schools or Jefferson County Schools. Starting pay is not great. It's somewhere between $40,000 and $45,000, depending on which school district you're talking about in the metro area. But that's not all of it. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for government employees, not just teachers, state troopers, state bureaucrats, the courts, like the Colorado Supreme Court, who would hear arguments about whether modifications to PARA would be unconstitutional or not. This teacher works her way up through the grid based on seniority and postgraduate degree credentials, which are not worth very much except money-wise. Whether they make better teachers is highly debatable. And she retires after 40 years, working her way up the pay scale. Right now in Cherry Creek, for example, she'd be making about $85,000 a year. In Denver, about $80,000 a year. It varies, and of course, with the new pay schedule in Denver, it's going to go up about 12% base salary increase to begin with, and that kind of compression is going to force all of the other brackets up too. In any event, let's say $85,000. You get 2.5% for every year you work. 40 times 2.5 is 100%. I'm sure you could have beaten me to that, but I rehearsed it.
Not without getting my iPhone out.
So she retires at 100% of her highest average salary. That's the average over the last 5 years. Well, that would be $85,000 a year. So this compensation package is big time backloaded, and she avoids paying income taxes on more income up front in exchange for a wonderful, wonderful retirement program. Now, that deserves to be discussed and debated when we talk about increasing teacher pay.
Right, so we did a study years back at Independence saying this was for a CU professor, if you are going to get guaranteed that rate of return for a defined contribution plan, if you were going to buy some sort of private package, how much more would you need to get paid today in order to pay to get that package? And it was at least 27% more than what you're getting paid today. And so
tomorrow, Denver teachers, without this latest collective bargaining agreement, could have had a 20%, probably a 23% increase in their pay if para wasn't there. So if the starting salary is $45,000, 23% of that is about another $9,000 or $10,000. That could have increased their pay if it weren't for the burden on not only the Denver school district, but all the school districts to kick in all this money, far more than they kick in for Social Security and their contribution to a private sector employee's defined contribution plan. That's the gold mine. Also, after you take out the 2 months in the summer, spring break, fall break, Christmas break, in-service days, on and on and on, in essence, they're getting paid for about 8.5 months' work. Well, annualize that, and $45,000 becomes closer to $60,000 if you analyze it or annualize it. That should all be part of the discussion.
And healthcare benefits.
Very good healthcare benefits.
Even after you retire, because you can retire at a remarkably early age, well before you get into Medicare, and there's a guaranteed health insurance during that. It is a remarkably lucrative package, but we don't hear about that.
It's also got rock solid job security. They don't call it tenure anymore, but make no mistake about it, it's tenure. They call it due process now. No performance pressure and rock solid job security. And one of the things the teacher union wanted, the Denver Classroom Teachers Association, the teachers union, they wanted those in hard to teach schools, that is students who are on the subsidized food
Free lunch
program, free
right.
lunch program. With ProComp, the current system for determining how much teachers are going to get paid, in addition to your base salary, you get all kinds of bonuses.
Because you're taking on a job that other teachers don't want to get taken.
Exactly.
And Sam Adams was able to say, people get paid more for more difficult jobs, is the way the market works. To get teachers into schools that are more dangerous, or at risk, or in subjects that aren't being taught, we're going to pay you more.
So a teacher making $52,000, and you can find some examples on this on the DPA website where I went. They had a couple of examples of a teacher, one of whom teaching bilingual education, young black man, 5 years. His base salary was something like $45,000, and with the additional benefits he gets for all of these bonuses, it took him up in the to $56,000, $57,000 a year. Well, the rest of the teachers want those bonuses to be reduced so that their pay can be increased. But it's all for the children. Remember Albert Shanker?
No.
He was president of what was originally called the United Federation of Teachers.
Oh, yeah.
It became the American Federation of Teachers. I grew up in New York. I was still living in New York in 1968 when Albert Shanker, as head of the union, struck the entire New York City public school district for 2 months, based primarily on a dispute with one school district that wanted to have local control of the district. And the teachers union was flatly opposed to that. And it happened to be in a black and other minority school district in New York. The parents were completely frustrated, as they are in so many other school districts around the country. And over that, they struck the entire New York City school system for 2 months. The union prevailed. Albert Shanker famously said, and now it's disputed whether he said this in so many words, but the quote that's been available for many, many years, Albert Shanker said, when school children start paying union dues, I will represent the interest of school children.
I saw one of the striking teachers holding up the sign that says, "I'd rather be teaching." I'm like, nobody's stopping you from teaching today. Please, go teach. All right, we've only got about a minute or so left, but there's also a question about whether government employees should strike. I mean, it's not like the parents in Denver had any choice of where to send their kids. If you don't have money, you have no choice to send your kid but to the government-run school.
If King Soopers goes on strike, you can go to Safeway. Public employees, in this case teachers, have a monopoly. You can't go someplace else reasonably when they suddenly call a strike. No less a progressive than Franklin Roosevelt addressed this back in 1937 or 38 or 39. Can I quote?
Yeah.
I brought it with me. Just a second. He said, The obligation of government employees to their is paramount. Since their own services have to do with the functioning of the government, a strike of public employees manifests nothing less than an intent on their part to prevent or obstruct the operations of government until their demands are satisfied. Such action, looking toward the paralysis of government by those who have sworn to support it, is unthinkable and intolerable. Whatever their complaints are, they have no business striking. Teachers in Denver or anywhere else, if they don't like the terms of their employment, find another job.
People still want to listen to you on radio. When's a good time to tune in onto KOA?
I'll be on next Monday, which is President's Day, filling in for Mandy Connell from 1 to 4 on 850 KOA.
Mike, thank you, and thank you for writing for Complete Colorado, where you can read him at CompleteColorado.com. We'll see you next week.